just a few weeks to go now until Gotham Knights officially releases. We're starting to see a lot more information come out for each of the 4 different characters, and that's what we're going to cover in this next series of videos we do on the channel. Now, I've collated all the information we have for the different characters and I'll be showcasing it in these videos. The first character we'll look at is the one that we have the most information on. I would say we've got just about everything with the exception of mods. There's something we don't really know how they will work yet, but the character in question is of course Red Hood. We'll be having a look at his skills. There's 28 in total, so that's all of his skills that we'll be checking out. He's got 8 different abilities, we'll be having a look at them as well, and then finally he also has 13 outfits and we have some screenshots of those outfits as well. So let's dive in, let's break down the skills first. So this is your skill tree here. You have 4 different trees in total. For Red Hood you've got Marksman, Brawler, Vengeance and then Knighthood, and we will break all of these down. You'll unlock skill points to unlock the different nodes in these trees through leveling, and I believe by the end of the game when you've fully leveled up your character that you will be able to unlock all of the different skills here. Now the first one that we'll look at is in the Marksman tree. We'll work our way down the tree here and you'll see the skills get progressively more interesting as you work your way down, but the first one we look at, this is Perfect Evade. So with this, Red Hood performs a perfectly timed evade that generates momentum and allows for a perfect follow-up attack. So momentum is something we're going to look at later on once we get to the abilities section. Next up here in the Marksman tree we have Critical Expertise. This one increases Red Hood's critical damage by 20%. When we look through the different parts of Red Hood's kit you'll see that there is a high emphasis on getting crits on enemies and doing additional damage as a result of that. The next skill we have here is Focused Fire. This particular one, Red Hood can aim longer at a target to deal 4 times more damage. That sounds like a whopping amount, but it just depends how many attacks you can do in the time it takes for you to actually lock on to do that additional 4 times damage. So it's something we need to wait and actually see till we get hands in the game if this will be worthwhile using. We then have Lucky Rounds. This particular one, every round Red Hood shoots has a small chance to deal 5 times the damage. Only applies to ranged attacks and precision aim. If that actually works alongside the last skill that we looked at, that's up in the damage times 4, and then if you potentially get a crit with this as well, then you could see some pretty insane damage numbers. But you've got the fact that it says a small chance, it doesn't actually break down percent wise what that actually is, which is a bit disappointing. Is it 5%? Is it 10%? Is it 20%? We genuinely get no idea. A moment ago then we looked at a skill that increases your crit damage. This will tie in very nice with this particular one here. This is Precision Strikes, and with this one it increases Red Hood's chance of landing a critical hit by 10%. We then have Focused Fire Plus, so this particular one is an upgrade to Focused Fire. Not surprisingly, Focused Fire was the skill when you aimed at the enemy you would do up to 4 times more damage, so with this the aiming time of Focused Fire is reduced by 50%. Finishing up the Marksman tree here we have Quickfire Expert. So with this one the critical chance and critical damage of Red Hood's ranged attack combo is increased by 15%. Of course we had a skill earlier on that increased your crit chance by 10%, so you put the 2 of these together, 25% chance within his kit to crit, and bear in mind you'll also have various different items you can equip like your gear and your weapons that will be able to increase your crit chance as well. So that's the Marksman tree. Let's have a look at the Brawler tree. Whilst the last tree then was really focused on critical hits, this particular tree it looks like it's all around grabs and throws. So the first skill that we look at here is Human Bomb. With this one here, when Red Hood throws an enemy he attaches a concussion mine to them that explodes when shot, and you'll hit your triangle button to shoot it. The next skill upgrade is a pretty simple one. This one is Large Grab. So Red Hood can perform grab moves on large enemies. That could be actually good for taking the attention and almost tanking larger enemies, because you can grab them and then your teammates, if you're playing alongside someone else, could wail away on that target while you've grabbed them. So I like the sounds of this, and it's going to bring up some pretty interesting gameplay mechanics. We then have Extended Grab Window, once again a pretty simple upgrade but one that will be really useful. So this one here, enemies can now be grabbed at 50% health or less. This next skill here ties in with the first one we looked at, Human Bomb. So this is Human Bomb Enhanced, and with this one it increases the damage and radius of the concussion mine explosion. That's when you grab the enemy, you put the concussion mine on them and then you shoot that mine to explode it. As mentioned then, we've got a heavy focus on grab here, so you've got Grip Expertise with this skill upgrade, increases Red Hood's damage when performing a grab move by 10%. We then have another grab upgrade. This one is Iron Grip, so grabbing an enemy prevents Red Hood from being interrupted by most attacks. Finishing up the brawler tree here, we've got a pretty interesting skill, which is good because the other ones were a bit disappointing, but this one here, Human Bomb multiplied. So when you use that first skill, Human Bomb, detonating the concussion mine deploys 6 additional concussion proximity mines on the ground, so this could be a lot of fun, this one. We then have the Vengeance tree here. The first one that we look at, the skill, it's Coup de Grace. So this one here, Red Hood inflicts 10% more damage on enemies with 30% health or less. The next few skills we have here, I would say they really are quite disappointing. So the first one is Freak Justice, increases Red Hood's damage by 15% and crit damage by 5% when fighting freaks, so that'll be a faction within the game. We then have Regulator Justice, so you're doing additional damage to Regulator style enemies. And then the last of this type of skill is Mob Justice, so with this particular one you'll do additional damage to mob style enemies. I'm really not a fan of this particular type of skill, it's just really boring, the style of it, and if it's different characters that can do increased damage to different mobs, it doesn't necessarily feel fair that you have to take in a certain character if you're wanting to do additional damage. So yeah, really not a fan of these skills. So this next one here thankfully is a bit more interesting. It's Combined Fire. Red Hood and his allies inflict increased damage when focused on a single target. Only applies to ranged attacks and precision aim. So this once again is the skill types that I'm wanting to see. This is Unrestricted Fire. After using Two-Fisted Reload, Red Hood can shoot unlimited rounds for a short period of time. Finishing up the Vengeance tree, we have Double VORTEX. So with this, after using Two-Fisted Reload, Red Hood shoots double the number of rounds for a short period of time, whereas the last one you could shoot an unlimited number of rounds. If you can combine the two of them together, it sounds like it will be pretty powerful. But let's check out the Knighthood tree now. So this particular tree then, I believe it's when you get to a certain point in the story you unlock this, and then as you work your way through the story you unlock additional skills from it. The first one you get is your traversal move. This is called Mystical Leap. It does look a bit odd on him, but with this, Red Hood traverses through the air using spirit platforms. We then have our first look at the fear status effect within the game. So this skill is called Range Terror. With this, every shot that knocks out a target inflicts fear on nearby enemies. I imagine they'll just run back when they've got fear inflicted on them, which if you're playing a range build will give you more breathing room to fire off your skills. So this one could actually be pretty nice. We then have Weak Spot Damage Plus. This particular one increases headshot and weak spot damage by 15%. If you tie that in with some of the other skills we looked at in the Marksman tree, your Focused Fire where you can hold on longer for 4 times damage, you've got your Lucky Rounds where you can do your 5 times more damage, and if you potentially crit with this, then I think you're going to have videos of people doing some pretty insane damage numbers with this setup. So we jump back here to one of the mechanics that was within the brawler tree. This is Grab. This particular skill is called Grab Dread. So grabbing a target inflicts fear in nearby enemies. The next skill we have is Combat Mastery. This increases the number of attacks in Red Hood's ranged attack combo by 1, and the last hit in that combo will be a knockdown as well. We then have our first upgrade for Mystical Rounds. This is something we're going to look at in just a moment when we get to the abilities section, but this upgrade for it is called Dukra's Training. With this one, Mystical Rounds require 50% less time to lock onto targets. Finishing up the skill trees then, we have Shadow Vengeance. With this one, Mystical Rounds shoot 2 rounds instead of 1. Now let's actually check out the abilities, and as mentioned, Mystical Rounds will be one of these abilities. For the abilities then, each of the heroes will have access to 8 of these. They will be tailored to the particular hero's playstyle and they will complement it. In order to use the abilities you need to work up momentum, which you get via fighting. In order to unlock the abilities you need to complete challenges within the game. Now the first one we look at here is Barrage. So with this, Red Hood shoots multiple rounds straight ahead, hitting all enemies in his path, and ammunition is also reloaded. And you can see this has got the piercing tag on it as well. We then have Mystical Punch. So this is for your brawler style build. So Red Hood charges his fists with elemental effect damage, melee attacks do 50% more damage and 5 times more elemental build up, a duration of 30 seconds in this, and of course you've got different elemental effects that are available in the game. We've got Frost, Fire, Toxic, Lightning, all your usual ones. You can see this also has Guard Break as well on it. So we're back to ranged abilities here. This is one we actually looked at within the skill tree. This is Two-Fisted Reload. So with this, Red Hood performs a quick reload while hitting and shooting at an enemy. So this next ability here looks to be tied in with the fact that Red Hood is not a character that's going to hide in the shadows or anything like that. He's going to approach his enemy from the front and go in guns blazing, pun intended there. So this one here is called Harness Rage. When activated, Red Hood's next attack increases by a portion of damage he receives. Also heals Red Hood at 1% per second. It's got a duration of 20 seconds and it says that this attack is fear inducing as well. We then have another ranged ability here. This one is called SPOILSPORT Reload. Red Hood jumps backward, releasing explosive magazines, and ammunition is also reloaded, and you can see it's got an area of effects tag on it. So we have a really unique ability with this next one. It's Portable Turret. So with this, Red Hood deploys a mini turret that shoots at nearby enemies, dealing high damage, duration of 6 seconds. If it actually pulls aggro from the enemies as well whilst dealing damage, then this will be great. But I like it because it's something quite different from a lot of other upgrades that are just either boosting the damage you do or something along the lines of that, whereas this one is a completely new mechanic. The penultimate ability we have here then, this is a brawler one once again, so Mega Tackle. This one, Red Hood dashes forward, knocking down all enemies in his path, and you can see it's got a ton of tags. It's got Guard Break, Piercing, Partial Area of Effect, and Fear Inducing as well. But let's have a look at the final ability, and this is always the most powerful one. So this final ability is essentially what would be an ultimate ability in many other games. You'll notice that it doesn't have a momentum cost, it has a set cooldown, 5 minutes, which is a pretty lengthy cooldown, but these skills look to be really strong. This one is Mystical Rounds, so Red Hood locks onto enemies and shoots a mystical round. It will hit all targets, causing massive damage. We did have some skills earlier on that allowed you to fire additional rounds and also to lock on and fire it quicker as well. But with that, that's all the skills and abilities for Red Hood. We're going to finish up now with a showcase of 13 different outfits. I'm not going to add any commentary to this section because it's a pretty simple one, but let me know in the comments below what build you'll be looking to go for with Red Hood. Are you going to go for melee, are you going to go for ranged, or are you going to go for a mixture of two? But as always, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you all again soon.